Well, I'm going to welcome. We're all friends. We're all back together again. So I don't think I need to do the conventional history of the Amherst Irish Association. But for folks who might be tuning in later on YouTube, because we do post all of these events on YouTube, welcome to our latest event for the Amherst Irish Association. Let's see, this is our 7th event of this series, and this is our 8th year of doing these. And this year, and I'm going to use one of those unfortunate new words that we've had to pivot to doing these virtually, and we can't wait to get back and see everybody in person again. That's something we're all looking forward to. But thank you all for tuning in, whether you're here with us today, whether you're watching this later on YouTube. Welcome to another event with the Amherst Irish Association. And with that, let me pass it on over to Annie Rogers, who will give us some announcements.
Sure, I'll be brief. Ordinarily, in person, I am the tea lady. I set up the tea and I cut up the scones and set up things so that people could enjoy their treats. But for right now, I just have a couple of reminders. This is, again, mostly for people who might tune in on YouTube. If you're interested in a membership or you have not yet paid your annual membership, please check it out on amherstirish.org. Just follow the links. The membership is actually not very expensive at all, and you get loads for it. Not only the tea and scones and music and events when we're in person, but all kinds of other things that have come through the mail during these COVID times. And also today, if you have questions, just a reminder to please send them via the chat so that Mary can take your questions when we get to the discussion. Okay, that's it for me.
All right, and I am the next person to formally welcome Mary to our event today. Fáilte is ficherót Mary Sugrue. Ceanara íontach an cólacht seo, a great leader in the Irish American Partnership over the last almost 30 years, Mary. Am I right in that? You set it straight anyway, and as fresh as ever with your work and your vision. The Irish American Partnership has also maintained a strong connection, I think, with a focus on education in particular and community. And both of those are areas of interest to our association, and what our mission is about is to connect to a wider sense of community within our area. So we have in many ways similar missions in terms of Irish identified people and people interested in Ireland on this side of the Atlantic, and Mary's organisation with folks north and south for the Irish American Partnership. We have met on several occasions, gatherings of organisations in New England, and I'm particularly impressed by the Nullig Naman event, which is a wonderful gathering and a recognition of women's leadership and role in politics and culture, which I commend Mary for, and the Lála Frádraig gathering too. We've a particular affinity here with Bridget, Mary, so we might get you on board for our next Bridget celebration. Amherst Irish has been recognised by the town. The town leaders has recognised Bridget's Day, the 1st of February, as Irish Day in Amherst. So without further ado, we thank you sincerely for your ongoing work to link Ireland and America, and for your vision and leadership of this organisation. Fáilte is ficherót Mara. Away with you, Mary.
Well, tá an áthasarm bheith an seo inmh caintliv agus tá súla gom go minseach tainmh as an clár seo. Thank you to Sam and to Annie and to Tim and the entire Amherst Irish Association. I'm delighted and honoured to be here. Annie, I hope I can get out for those scones and tea one day soon. But in the meantime, it's lovely to be able to present to you here in person today on this virtual format. So I'm just going to share my screen for a minute now. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so as I said, anyway, I'm delighted. And just a little bit about myself. As Edith said, I'm from Carsaveen in County Kerry. I was, went to primary school and secondary school in Carsaveen, and then I went to Dublin to Carysford, which is a teacher training college. And then back in the 80s, I was one of the Irish transatlantics. Edith's wonderful book there that she wrote about people like me who left Ireland back in the 80s, late 80s, I left, mid 80s, I left Ireland. And but anyway, I'm here now in my current role, and it's really a tremendous privilege for me to be able to connect Irish Americans back to the people and the places that they hold dear, essentially engaging the diaspora through philanthropy. So what's the Irish American Partnership? Well, we connect Irish and Irish Americans directly with education and community programs in Ireland, North and South. So we honour our heritage by really investing in Ireland's future. Since our founding in 1986, the partnership has really been a powerful force for social good across the island of Ireland. And we're guided by that principle you see up on the top, that old Irish adage, Ní nacht go cur le céile, which means there's no strength without togetherness, or in other words, we're stronger together. And by harnessing that, the power of that special relationship that exists between Ireland and the US, we're seeking to build a more peaceful and a more prosperous and a more inclusive Ireland, so that everybody can thrive. So thanks to our entire network of supporters across the United States, we have donated $35 million to education and programs in Ireland in the North and South. We have provided funds to more than 500 schools, third level institutions and community organizations that have benefited from the generosity of our members. So here about our mission, like how to break down really what we do. We connect Irish students and schools and organizations with the passionate supporters who want to help. We empower the next generation by equipping teachers and community leaders with the resources they need to educate and inspire. We invest in the people and the culture and the ideas that are building a peaceful and prosperous Ireland, but it's one that preserves the Irish way of life we cherish, but while also creating a more inclusive and equitable society for all. And we strengthen the global Irish community by linking our members and our donors to Ireland North and South. And of course, we value transparency and efficiency. We show where every dollar is spent and the impact that our supporters have. So we pride ourselves really on being, non-partisan and at the cutting edge in some programs in Ireland. And the partnership really has etched a place of honour. We're very grateful for that in the hearts and minds of our Irish constituency. We have the endorsement of all governments involved, the Irish government, the government of the Northern Ireland Assembly and the United Kingdom government. And, we're very grateful for that support and endorsement. Now, this is a quote from our Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, and he addressed our members for our virtual St. Patrick's Day celebration last month. And this is one of the quotes from his presentation. It said, "The partnership builds and strengthens Irish-American relationships. It enables the diaspora to connect in a most meaningful way." And of course, he's, as a former teacher and as a former Minister for Education, he's absolutely delighted with the work that we're doing. So just a bit about the history and how we were formed. So it was founded in 1986 and actually seed funded by the Irish government. It was the idea from a TD from Donegal called Paddy Hart. And really, again, referring to Edith's book, back in the 80s, I mean, our unemployment nationally, was between 21 and 25%, and we had pockets of Ireland with 50% unemployment. And so the whole idea was, of course, Irish America had been supporting Ireland for many years. I mean, in the 50s and 60s, our immigrants' remittances were counted on our GDP. So there was very much that whole idea of giving back was very much already in existence. So Paddy Hart's idea was, look, at our issue here in Ireland is around our economy. And so he was wondering if we could encourage Irish Americans to support economic development, job creation, and education. And it was all about investing in Ireland. So that was the whole idea behind it. So the government came right in. We were incorporated as a 501c3 in 1987, and our headquarters was established in Boston in 1988. Now, one of our first founders, actually, or our first supporters, who actually paid for our administrative costs for 3 years, was Chuck Feeney, who's an Irish American who had given back substantially since that time. In fact, the partnership was one of the first organizations he supported. But since that time, he gave subsequently over $1 billion to Ireland, really building our Dublin City University and University of Limerick in particular, but again, focused on education. So he liked that we were focusing on education. So he came right in at the beginning, and it was wonderful to have that support. Tip O'Neill actually was he was our main spokesperson in the late, like 87, 88, 89 and 90. And he was wonderful. He signed our letters. He was a great endorser of our work. And then one of our first chairpersons was General P.X. Kelly, who's the former US Commandant of the US Marine Corps. So really, you know, from humble beginnings, you know, on here, we go to the work that we're doing today. Let me see, which is here. So we've stayed very true to our mission around education. And these are our programs, and I'll talk about each of them very briefly, but just to go through there's the O'Neill Direct Grants to Schools, we have STEM education, university access, empathy education, continuing professional development for teachers, especially in the area of science, employment training and upskilling, community development and cross-community initiatives, and integrated education in Northern Ireland. So there are programs right across the island. So the first program, the O'Neill Direct Grants to Schools program. Now this is our hallmark program. It basically allows donors to select a school or a location that they want to give back to. So if somebody remembers where their grandfather or grandmother or their great-grandparents are from, and it's always heartwarming for me when I meet people and they know the little school, they know the locality in Ireland where their people are from, and they say, can I have the funds to go to that school? And that's what we do. So we're really connecting the donor back to the place in Ireland that they have, that's meaningful to them. So the program came about because we worked with the Department of Education when we started this in the mid-90s, and we asked what's needed in rural schools. And at the time, they said library books. So it started out very much that the grants were for library books. Now our grants are modest to the schools. They're anywhere between $2,500 and $10,000. But I can tell you the impact of those funds is enormous. And it's wonderful, again, to have that connection. So now we're finding that along with library books, that the schools are using the funds a lot for science materials, for literacy, for numeracy. And of course, in the last year and a half, we invariably are getting requests looking for technology, iPads. And the other big thing they're looking for is they want to develop the outdoor spaces. You know, they want even just to have a little bit of, you know, area for the kids to play outside. So that's generally where we see the need now. So it's a great program, and it's our hallmark, you know. University access. So at the third level, what we're doing is the partnership is able to provide support to disadvantaged students attending universities across the island of Ireland. So whether it's Trinity or DCU or UCC in Cork, or whether it's University of Ulster or Queen's University, what we're doing is we sponsor 3 to 4 students a year at each of those colleges for students that would not normally have the opportunity to go on to third level. So again, this is an opportunity for our diaspora to connect. You know, sometimes it's with their alma maters, because we have a lot of that generation that emigrated in the 80s are now giving back very substantially to their Ireland and where they came from. And then we have other ancestors, people who want to advance higher education in regions where their ancestors came from. So just a little story, the woman there that you see in the photo is Dr. Susan Wieruski. She's based in Boston. Her great-grandfather came from Donegal, immigrated from Donegal. He came on a boat from Derry, landed in Boston, and he was, his son, so this woman's grandfather, went to Harvard Medical School, became a doctor. He was involved in, TB and involved in, the flu pandemic at the time, the 1918 flu, and smallpox vaccinations. Well, Susan, here she is, the generations later, she's involved in biotechnology. In fact, she's been involved in Moderna and other developments of vaccines. So she's an amazing person. So she wanted to give back to the Ulster University, who have just this year opened a medical school. So here, look at how we've come full circle all these generations later. And she's giving back. She gave $100,000 of a grant for students to attend the McGee campus, the medical school, which is located at the McGee campus in Derry. So now those students are going to be from that area, the northwest, and our northwest region of Ireland in Donegal. There's a shortage of medical doctors there. So now here we have the medical school, and here we have somebody from the United States supporting young people to go on to medical school. So it's a fantastic story. And then just to mention the last bullet there about scholarships for aspiring teachers, we work with the Gaelic Players Association now, as you know, the GA is very much part of our DNA in Ireland. It's very much part of the fabric of our community, and we love the sports, and it's very much about our county and our county support. But our athletes are amateurs, they are not paid, and yet the hours and hours of work that they put in. So what we're doing is we're supporting the women's players and the men's players. Any of those young people who are going to college for teaching, we're providing scholarships for them, because again, they're putting so much into the sport because of the love of it, of course, and because of the honor of playing for their county, and because they're role models for their community. But it's brilliant that we, that they're getting something back from our organization to help them get through college, and to give them for us to say thank you to them for all that they do for us. So that's at the third level. And I'll just jump back a minute to primary school. And we have developed in 2003, we pride ourselves in Ireland, of course, with our education system, but actually we have a ways to go around the teaching of primary school science. And so primary school science was not introduced into the curriculum in Ireland until 1999, and it really didn't get off the ground until about 2003. And a lot of the teachers within the system are challenged with the teaching of science. I mean, they weren't trained in it. So of course, what we're doing is we have a continuous professional development training program for teachers. Now, again, it's very grassroots, and that's what you would find. Some of the words that people use to describe the partnership is targeted funding, grassroots, broad-based. So coming back to the grassroots element of it, what we do is, in 2003 we launched the program with the Irish government, and actually, when we piloted it, and we were in Donegal, Galway, Kerry and Mayo. And now we're in the counties of Clare and Kilkenny. And so what happens, like taking Clare as an example, there's a learning centre for all the teachers. They're usually located in the bigger town like Ennis as the learning centre. And what we're doing is we provide a facilitator, and the facilitator brings the teachers together and helps them create the curriculum around the teaching of science. It's been a brilliant initiative, and it's fantastic because it's really about peer-to-peer for the teachers learning and then going back into the classroom. So it's worked very well, and we're delighted to be in that cutting edge initiative. So the other thing, as you see here on bullet number 3, we're helping with science fairs. Now, you'd be hard pressed to find any grade school here in the United States without a science fair. Well, let me tell you, in Ireland, they don't exist. There are no science fairs. So Ida will remember, and us, we all grew up with the BT Young Scientist competition. It was for secondary schools, and that was in Dublin, and people would go up, and it was, if you were interested in science, you went. Well, the RDS realized that really they should be doing something around primary science. So they started a fair in Dublin. Now, back to our grants program to schools. The schools, when they were looking for funding, they said, we want to get to Dublin for the science fair. So we gave a grant to 31 schools €500 to each of 31 schools to get to Dublin for the science fair. Well, the RDS, the Royal Dublin Society, which really is Ireland's oldest philanthropic organisation, they wondered who's the scoop that's getting these schools up to Dublin, paying for the buses. And we had lovely, like you get a note from this lovely kid from Bantry wrote a note saying, "Thank you so much for the money. We had to leave Bantry at 4:30 in the morning to get to Dublin." Anyway, of course, the RDS said, okay, well, we need to expand this now and regionalise it. And would you, the partnership, come on as a sponsor to help the RDS? And of course we did. And we helped them to launch and expand the science fairs to Limerick and Belfast. And we were delighted because now, again, we're very much all Ireland. We were thrilled to be able to expand the programme, the science fair to Belfast and to Limerick. So now there are 3 science fairs a year, Dublin, Belfast and Limerick. And they would not have happened without the partnership support. Now, the other thing, and that was a large grant for us, which was $50,000. And I will say, again, I'll say it's not about the size of the grant, but what happens in many cases with our funding is that the RDS was able to leverage support from other groups. And now they actually have the ESB involved, our Electricity Supply Board, which is a big company in Ireland, and the ESB have come on board. So now they're able to expand even further. So we're delighted to have been there on the ground at the ground level and to get it off and running. So it's the STEM education has been a very important element of our work over the last 15 years. So now we move on to 2020 and 21, and as we all know, we are all suffering with issues around our society and around racism and around bias and around the importance of really activating social empathy. So we've launched this program it was launched on St. Patrick's Day at our event. And what we've done here is when we researched to see what was happening on the ground in Ireland around empathy education, we came across the UNESCO chair at the Child and Family Research Centre at the National University of Ireland, Galway. And the chair is Pat Dolan, and he's done tremendous work. And it's really a program around improving skills and, fostering positive peer relations among secondary school students. And they've done a lot of research on it, and they've proven, through this youth-led research that it's effective in preventing bullying and tackling racism and promoting understanding and improving social connectedness. So our funds, now that we just announced, it's $100,000, $25,000 a year over 4 years, is actually going to help roll this program out in schools, secondary schools. And we're actually going to begin in Northern Ireland because Pat Dolan, the professor at NUIG, is actually collaborating with Alan Smith, a professor at the University of Ulster, which is wonderful to have the collaboration. And so we're delighted to be involved. And in fact, also, there's a professor who's also actually the UNESCO chair at Penn State, Mark Brennan, a wonderful guy. And so he's also involved in the initiative, and he's looking at bringing the program here. The development work was done out of research in Galway, but he's looking at bringing the empathy education program over here as well to the United States. You'll see the picture there. The second guy in with the glasses is Cillian Murphy. He's the Irish actor. Any of you who watch Peaky Blinders, but anyway, he's the patron, and he's fantastic. He's great with the young people, and and he gave us a message for St. Patrick's Day too. And he said, look, we need empathy in schools and we need empathy in the world, and he's right. And so we're delighted to do that. Now, we had been involved, and there on the second bullet, with doing some empathy education work back 3 years ago with Educating the Heart, which is a wonderful program out of Derry. And we had been doing that, a similar initiative around really integrating empathy education into the curriculums in Ireland. So that's our most recent initiative. So in Northern Ireland, just want to tell you that we support schools of all traditions, Catholic schools, Protestant schools. The shared education that you see there is really, in the early years, when we would present a grant, we would present a grant to a Catholic school, and it present a grant to a Protestant school. But now what we're tending to do is that, and what's happening on the ground in Northern Ireland, is that the Catholic and Protestant schools are working together more around a shared education. So if we give a grant to a school, a Catholic school, we say, who's your local Protestant school and what are you doing together? And it's wonderful. It's really going in the right direction. We also support integrated education. Now, integrated education, we've been supporting integrated education for 20 years. Changes are happening on the ground, but it's very slow. It's not an easy process for schools to integrate, in other words, to bring Catholic and Protestant children together. So we are supporting the Integrated Education Fund, which really believes so strongly that educating all children together is an essential part of the reconciliation process and of building a society, that celebrates and respect and understanding and friendships across the traditional divide. So it's something that we feel very strongly about supporting. We also support the universities in Northern Ireland, Queen's and Queen's University and the University of Ulster. And then we also support cross-community initiatives through the community building program. So here I just want to show you, it's a very brief video here from the Integrated Education School. It's called Cliftonville. And again, they put this together for us.
I would like to welcome everyone to Cliftonville Integrated Primary School from the Irish American Partnership on this very, very, very special St. Patrick's Day. I'd like to thank the Irish American Partnership for all the support that they have given Cliftonville Integrated Primary School over the years. It's hard to believe Cliftonville Integrated has been going now for 11 years, and at the very, very start, the Irish American Partnership were with us hand in hand. They provided us with a number of cultural diversity resources for our library, and throughout this time they have helped us grow. We were a school of 150 children back then, and now we're sitting with over 400 children. And that's hard to believe because in the area that we support has seen some of the worst of the troubles. This area is probably on the top 10 of all of the different wards, over nearly 900 wards in the whole of Northern Ireland for deprivation. So we really do thank them for all their support. And something that I really think in relation to COVID is helping us co-funding an outdoor classroom for us has been absolutely amazing. It's a resource that is used every day by our children. And I have to say as well, many of those children don't have a garden. So we really do truly thank them for all that they're doing and all that they will continue to do to help integration.
Hi folks, I'm delighted to be with you today and to tell you about some of the work the Integrated Education Fund's doing and how you have been so supportive over the years. I was thinking about when I was going to speak to you, and my mind goes back to the day in Drumlins. Drumlins was a wee school in Ballynahinch, which was in a one place, one porta cabin, and we needed extra space for children who had extra needs. And the Irish American Partnership came on board with us and funded that. And when I look back to Drumlins then and look at it today, Drumlins today is over 200 children at it, and it's in a spanking new state-of-the-art school, which we fought hard to get, but which your money also helped to help us move on to that. And the second thing I was thinking about when I was thinking about speaking to you was Malone. Malone is one of our schools on the West Belfast Peace Line. An area that has suffered particularly hard as North Belfast Peace Line. And we went in there and we needed extra support for personnel service for kids that were underachieving. And so you came on board once again and supported that. And it's interesting today, Malone's accepted as one of the leading schools in Northern Ireland that is dealing with underachievement. And of course, as you will see on your film, Cliftonville. In Cliftonville, you came on board with Cliftonville many years ago when we were really struggling, came in and helped Cliftonville to do a number of things. But you know, when I look back on your support over all those years and look at how it has helped us to move on in integrated education, I can't thank you enough. I just can't be praised enough for the help you have given us over the years that has helped us to move on to a place where we're now beginning to make inroads. And so I'd like to thank you for your support, and I know I have your continued support, which is also very good. And the downside for me is I can't be with you. I would love to be in Boston for St. Patrick's Day, but who knows, maybe next year. But have a happy St. Patrick's Day, and thank you to one and all.
I like Cliftonville because I like to play football with my friends. I like Cliftonville because I like playing with my friends outside. Thank you for all your support. Happy St. Patrick's Day!
Okay, am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, no problem.
Oh yeah, okay, so sorry about that technical difficulty. But anyway, so just, you know, and I'm nearly finished here, I'm sure. But so here's us, the partnership. We go to Ireland to evaluate our programs, and here we are visiting that very school in 2018. So anyway, it's wonderful that we can go over there, and we have a board of directors who, you know, help us evaluate the programs. And here's our slide on our partners in Ireland, schools, the universities, of course, beginning there with the Department of Education in both the North and South, and then with the universities and other groups in Ireland. So how do we engage our supporters? Well, one of the few ways of our fundraising is through events, and Ida had mentioned our Nollaig na Mán. That's Nollaig na Mán is Women's Christmas. It's an old Irish celebration that goes back to the farming tradition, and on January 6th, the feast of the Epiphany, the women would head out and have a celebration with their friends. So for us, we're modernizing the celebration, and it's really about celebrating women. So we started the event 7 years ago in Washington, DC. And now we have the event in Boston as well. So pictured here in 2020, we honored Ambassador Samantha Power. And with her there to the right is Samantha Barry, who's editor-in-chief of Glamour, a Cork woman. And so what we do, and you'll see the other two supporters are holding envelopes. What we do at our events is we always make it about giving back something at the event to honor the people who are speaking. And so we gave a grant to Scolbara, which was Samantha Barry's school in Cork. And then we gave a grant to UCC in honor of Samantha Power, because her mother attended medical school at UCC. So then we have St. Patrick's Day. We have our big breakfast celebration in Boston and Chicago. They're wonderful events. We've been hosting them for 26 years. We have a business leaders breakfast in New York City. And then just last year, 2 years ago, we started a young partners group for young people from ages 18 to 40. We were stopped a little bit because of COVID, but that's about to relaunch in Boston and in New York, both cities. And then we do roundtables of visiting program leaders. When they come to the United States, we host them. And then, of course, we had to have our virtual events. Here we also run golf tournaments. We've won in Albany, in Chicago, in Newport, Rhode Island. We also host an Irish Invitational. And then we have individual engagement. I mean, our supporters, we're always in touch with our supporters. We send newsletters and appeals and highlighting our work. And we have members all across all 50 states. We have a donor advised giving program. The donor can select a school or a location or a program that's meaningful to them. So just to tell you, we raise, for many years, we were raising $1 million. For the past 5 years, we've raised $1.5 million. 92% of our funds go to our programs. We're a very well-run, efficient organization. We have a board of directors who monitors and manages us. And anyway, I'd love to hear from any of you that are interested. That's my email there, mary@irishap.org. And just to say, Gurv, mila mila mahagav, these young people are saying it here. Thank you so much. And for me, myself, mila breakus, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the partnership. And so thank you. Stop sharing. There we go. Oh, sorry, that technology.
Mary, don't worry at all. You were calm through it all.
Oh gee, I don't know.
You had a great time. You were all learning this stuff.
Yes, we are, yeah. So anyway, that's a snapshot.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that. Can I ask if you'd be willing to take a few questions from?
Oh, sure, yeah, of course.
And Jonathan will act as moderator there, beside you. So Shanakon, I think there's already a question in the chat. Shanakon,
Sure. Hey, thanks again, Mary. Have you come across any specific challenges dealing with groups and schools between the Republic and the North?
Yes. So there are challenges. Well, obviously, the Northern Ireland school system is quite complex, because we have what we call controlled Protestant schools and maintained schools. That's the names that they use for them, but essentially they're Catholic and Protestant. So that's a challenge, and it's a challenge to understand it. And you have to, and even me, like, I mean, I've been to Northern Ireland several times, but it's still very difficult to really quite understand that the society is so segregated and the school systems are so segregated. So that's a challenge. And that's why even the Integrated Education Fund, which has been around for, you know, and has really worked hard, especially since the Good Friday Agreement, and yet still only 7% of the young children in Northern Ireland are going to school together. So that's a challenge. In the Republic, the challenges for the schools is funding. I mean, you know, of course it's always funding, but, you know, but like say if we give a grant of $2,500 to a school sitting up in Donegal or over in Mayo, I mean, the impact of that grant, just for them to think that an organization sitting over in the United States is willing to give something back, it would take that community, that local community, a year to raise $2,500. And, you know, so for them, it's almost like a, you know, it's just like a bonus coming in from people who really, you know, want to give back because they feel connected and they want to honor their heritage in a very tangible way. So yeah, but there's a lot of challenges in the education systems in both North and South. We, unlike at the university level, we have a lot of work to do around research at universities in Ireland, you know. So, but for us, we stay focused on people. We're very much about the people and about the children. So at the university level, we're not doing much on research. We're giving to young people from disadvantaged communities to attend college.
Codurmagat. Ta Castella on another one. We have, I'll maybe put them both into one for you. How did you yourself first become involved with the organization, and how did you become so passionate about the work that you're doing?
Oh gee, so when I came out here first, when I left Ireland in 1985, I came to the United States and I traveled around. First, I was down in the Cape, then I was out in Colorado, and I was in New York, and I was in Chicago, and then I went to Australia for a year, and I now worked around in Australia, and then I came back to the United States, and I was here, and my friend who had emigrated before me, from Galway, and she had attended the first partnership event, which was in 1988, and the president at the time was Joe Leary, and she said, Joe Leary is looking for an assistant. And I said, okay, yes, I'll go meet Joe. And I had the background in education, so I suppose I was interested in it. And so I was hired as Joe's secretary back in the day in 90. So what happened was he was looking for me, and this was Christmas, and of course, and Ida will know this, we all, back then, when we would head home for Christmas. So I disappeared off to Carsavine for Christmas, and I came back in January, and I walked into Joe Leary's office, and he said, where have you been? And this was for the interview. And anyway, as it turns out, I got the job, and so I've been with the organization for 32 years. So where does the passion come from? I mean, I grew up in a household where all my aunts and uncles, including my own parents, my parents immigrated to Chicago, but went back to Ireland in 1965. And some people did return back at that time. So all my aunts and uncles had to immigrate. The whole of the town of Carsavine immigrated. And so I witnessed that. And when my parents moved back to Carsavine, they opened up a bed and breakfast. And it's right on the Ring of Kerry. So of course they had people from all over the world. And I suppose through that, I got to really love people. And we, in our household, my father and mother had such a respect for America. And they really instilled that in us, and they loved that connection. And so when I came along to the Irish American Partnership, it was just such a natural fit for me. Plus then having the education, being a teacher by training, and I see the value of education. I know what it brings to us. I mean, that was one of the things my parents worked so hard for all of us to go to college, and you know, education, you know, it's a very important part of our nation and where we see ourselves in the world, really, you know. So
Good, Amaya, thank you. we also, as we all know, Ireland is a very diverse society now, these days in terms of race, ethnicity, all that. And do you feel like this programs have changed in response to that?
For sure, yes. I mean, now 17% of the population in Ireland was born outside of Ireland. So it's changed. So now we, like I talked about our direct grants to schools, we have a supporter who's giving back to the school in Lanesborough, and he went to present the grant, and he went to Lanesborough, and he couldn't get over how diverse the school population was in Lanesborough. We've got the same thing in the town of Tralee. We've got a family here who's giving back to Tralee. They went to the school. Tralee is a very diverse population. So yes, so we do, and that empathy education has really stemmed from the question about changing our programs or adapting our programs. The empathy education is very much around that, around developing a program for modern Ireland and for the young people of modern Ireland. So yes, we for sure are doing that.
Excellent. Sam is asking, how do you think Brexit will impact the schools that receive your grants?
Yeah, Brexit is very challenging for young people, and we saw it obviously in the last few weeks. There's a long road ahead yet in Northern Ireland. I mean, so over the years that I've been involved, we saw from the Good Friday Agreement on, we really started to see developments with communities, with cross community, and we saw progress, for sure. We saw progress. Maybe not so much sometimes at the political level, but we're non-partisan, we're non-political. So Brexit has really thrown a spanner in the works, for sure. And I think one of the areas that we, would like to put some more funding into is in the loyalist working class community. They're very challenged. They don't feel like they have received or seen anything of the so-called peace dividend. And we even heard that in the last few weeks. I mean, if you go to the Catholic areas of Belfast, I mean, and again, it's because of education. They're moving forward, not so much in the loyalist communities, and it's a challenge. And I think if there's anything we can do in the future, I think it would be around doing some more to assist in that community. Now, Baroness May Blood, the chair there of the Integrated Education Fund that you heard on the video, she's brilliant, and she grew up in a working class community, and she worked in the mills, and she worked and she's great to help direct us to the right places and where the funds should go into the right schools and to the initiatives. Yeah, so she's great. So we've connections on the ground. Our board person in Northern Ireland is the former head of the civil service in Northern Ireland, and again, he's very connected on the ground. So, and then we have board members down in the Republic as well. So those people help us to do the right thing. But we are very connected with on the ground. Yeah.
Excellent. If you don't mind, we've got another question.
Sure.
Kathleen says she's hopeful that Ireland will encourage the younger population to take pride in their Irish, Gaelic, Gaelan, and would that be considered a priority for the schools?
In the schools, yes. So yes, I mean, there's a lot of Gael schools now developing, and we have funded Gael schools. I mean, just like any other school, they're looking for funding for technology and numeracy and literacy materials. Yes, and so there's a great interest in the Irish language. In Northern Ireland, the Good Friday Agreement is very much around, you can be Irish, you can be British, or you can be both. So, I mean, it's about celebrating each other's cultures and understanding each other's cultures. So that's really what the future of Northern Ireland and our island is about.
And as an Irish speaker ourselves here, I would be very impressed with the likes of some members of the Protestant loyalist community in the north who are actively learning Irish and spreading their enthusiasm for Irish Gaelic, and I think that's fantastic.
That's right, Jonathan. Yeah, Linda Irvine and her husband David Irvine is a wonderful guy, and she's doing great work. Yeah, absolutely.
Your relationships between the north and the south seem to be a crucial part of your success. How about within government?
Yeah, I mean, we work mostly with the departments of education, north and south. So I think there's a new initiative coming out of the Taoiseach's office just literally in the last 3 months called the Shared Island Initiative. And that is going to be around more collaborations north and south. And the partnership will look into that space around in the education space for that. But definitely, I think the Shared Island Initiative is a wonderful initiative by the Taoiseach and the government, and it's just, I think it's the right step. And there are collaborations going on already within with the governments north and south, but I think for our role, I mean, we tend, obviously, as I said, we're non-political, but if there's an education initiative that shows a collaboration, I think it's great. And for instance, the one I mentioned, the empathy education, where the university NUIG Galway professor is working with the University of Ulster professor, that's what we want to see more of, and that's what the Irish government is trying to develop more of that.
Would you know if President Joe Biden is a member yet?
Oh, yeah, he knows about us for sure. And actually on St. Patrick's Day, I was invited to a Zoom. I'm sure there was, I'm sure now it was a big Zoom, but anyway, I was thrilled to be invited. And he was there, and it was just like I am with you now. He was sitting there at his desk at the on the Zoom, and he's, I mean, it's tremendous. And you know, and of course he loves poetry. And one of the things that that I'm putting together sent him, since, because obviously it was wonderful to be part of that Zoom on St. Patrick's Day. And of course he was saying, come back next year, I want you all to be down at the White House. But anyway, he's very interested, of course, and he quotes Seamus Heaney. And back in 1992, the partnership hosted a peace dinner here in Boston. And at the time, Cardinal Daly, Cardinal Cathal Daly and Archbishop William Eames, the leaders of the two main churches in Northern Ireland, were coming out here to Boston for the Irish-American Partnership's dinner. Anyway, it turned out they couldn't travel because there was so much unease and unrest in Northern Ireland. So instead, we had a presentation live of both of them, on a video for our peace dinner. But anyway, Seamus Heaney penned a lovely poem, actually, to the partnership around peace. And actually, I have it. I happen to have it out and the reason I have it out here is because I'm getting it a nice Gaelic calligraphy, and I'm going to frame it and I'm going to send it on to the president. But anyway, if you want, I could just say it. Will I say it? Oh yeah. Please, so yeah. Sure. The title of it is Peace in Northern Ireland. There is a cynical definition of peace which states that it is merely the suspension of war. One of the paradoxical blessings of the past 2.5 decades of Northern Ireland's history has been an emergent vision of peace as a creative condition in which culture, political, and doctrinal differences can be actively confessed and intelligently contested. The word has passed through a phase when it seemed to belong in the realm of wishful thinking. It has attained a new and robust reality in the common mind, offering to challenge the artist and entrepreneur alike and intimating the genuine possibility of a better life. The typically generous commitment of the Irish-American Partnership to the practical development of this positive mood could not be more welcome or more timely. Seamus Heaney. So written on the occasion of the Irish-American Partnership 1992 Peace Dinner in Boston. So here we are all those years later, and I'm pulling it out of the drawer.
And you've the right man to send it to.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Who will do the calligraphy? I don't know. Who is Dennis Brown? Kathleen.
He's quite a prominent calligrapher. I haven't gone to conferences for about 10 to 15 years, but he was a very big, important calligrapher from Ireland.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, well, thank you for letting me know the name. That's great, because I know my colleague Clodagh has been researching, so I'll let her know about him.
Oh, he's quite a character.
Brilliant.
He's also a calligrapher,
and very good.
Very good. So put in a
okay.
pitch for her to be considered.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'll be back to you. That's great.
Well, folks, that looks like we might be done with the questions for today.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate, you know, your time on a Sunday afternoon. It's lovely, and I appreciate it very, very much, and your great interest in our work. So, and take care, and I hope that we meet in person. Please God, I'll get out there one day to Amherst.
I'm going to jump in here now, Mary, to do our
Sure.
close, if you don't mind. So first of all, I want to say thank you so much for doing this with us today. I personally had absolutely no idea about all the work that you're not only have done, but are doing. It's absolutely amazing. And I certainly hope that a lot of people take advantage of seeing this on YouTube to be able to see what your organization has done. You're certainly to be commended for everything that you have done and that you're trying to do in the future, because certainly there's a lot of need for it, and there probably will be for quite some time. So thank you for sharing all that with us. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye now. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Sloan live.
Don't hit the end yet. Don't hit the end yet.
Okay.
I also wanted to thank Jonathan for taking care of the chat for us today, and for Ida, Sam, and Annie for everything that we do to keep this all going. I want to remind everyone that if you want to keep track of what we're doing in the news of the day, always available to you on amherstirish.org at any time. Also there, if you'd like to become a member. And a reminder that this video should be up and running for you on YouTube tomorrow, and you'll be receiving a link to this to all members. So look for it then.
And
again,
can we add, you are our speaker, our next speaker on May 16th on Irish ancestry and DNA testing. So Tim, you'll be our star for our next event.
And he's very good at
And he's very good at it. So Mary,
Brilliant.
Sloan, agus go
Sloan, Gurmahagat.